Hello guys, we are back here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we are gonna tour, this time one of the popular iconic place, the Wrigley Mansion. Constructed between 1929 and 1931 by chewing gum magnate William Wrigley Jr. If you don't know, he created Juicy Fruit, Doublemint, Big Red, and Wrigley's Spearmint gum. If you are curious about this place, just sit back, relax, and watch our tour. At least it will give you idea what to see and what to expect on this tour before coming here personally. Before coming to the tour, make sure you visit them online and reserve your spot. Guided tour is $20 and tours typically run 45 to 60 minutes. This mansion now is converted into award-winning fine dining restaurant. So you can come here for brunch or dinner with your loved ones while waiting for the tour, but make sure you have your reservation. As we part, we observe immediately the beauty of the garden. But unfortunately, we parked at the wrong side of the mansion and we walked to a wrong spot and we thought that the mansion is closed and the restaurant is closed. We just didn't see the sign, but it's okay. We just walk more further. That's it. That's the mansion. It's pretty and very iconic and built on 1930s. All the tiles is very exquisitely made. Some are painted. So really amazing. As soon as we got to the top, a host opened the door for us and asked us what we were there for. Then led us to the tour room and asked our last name. That's pretty. We got a little late because we got lost. However, our tour guide told us later on after the tour that we didn't miss a lot. They were just discussing about Mr. Wrigley's childhood.
Transferring to another school district and re-enrolling. If you were expelled, you were done. Come on in. Education, and then taking over the family business many years later. So as punishment, William was sent to work for his father in the soap factory. It was William's job to stir the very large vats of animal fat, rendering them down and making it usable for the soap product. This was a very hot and a very smelly job. William would work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, and only earn $1.50 each week for his labors. We think that this had a lot to do with him inaugurating the 5-day work week for Americans many years later. So William worked in that position for the next 10 years until he met his dear Schnuckums, Ada. I'm sure that William had a pet name for Ada. I'm also very certain that Schnuckums was not it. The mansion was a 50th wedding anniversary present from William to Ada, and so there's lots of personal touches throughout the home to let her know just how special she was to him. 50 years. 50 years. Yeah. 50 years. Wedding anniversary present. But looking around, we're in the original library to the home. You'll see the original Philippine walnut paneling in addition to these beautiful opaque hardwood floors. Behind you here is an Italian marble fireplace. This is the only fireplace throughout the home that's decorated in Italian marble, as this would have been an area that the Wrigleys were frequently entertained in, and it was meant to make a grand impression upon their guests. Just to the right of the fireplace there, just behind that blue couch, there, 2 of those panels actually pop out to create a secret passage. The Wrigley grandchildren came a few years ago and shared some stories of loving to play back in that crawl space when they came to visit their grandparents. Here on the shelves, we have several volumes that were handed down to us by the Wrigleys themselves, including 9 original signed copies of books by Mark Twain. Just to the left of the doorway, you'll notice a black and white photograph. There's going to be one of these in each of the rooms that we're going to visit today. The Wrigleys took these in 1973 when they sold the home, so the future generations will be able to.
so expensive because it was the first of that.
Oh, yeah.
So welcome to the living room. Copper ceilings. It was done by the Italian artist Giovanni Smeraldi. Giovanni Smeraldi also has notable works inside of the Los Angeles Biltmore Hotel, Grand Central Station, and inside of the White House. Along the center of the ceiling, you'll notice 4 stars, and those are meant to indicate William, Ada, and then their 2 children, Philip and Dorothy. William was very proud of the family's heritage, and you'll see the English lion, which is meant to represent William's English heritage, and the French fleur-de-lis for Ada's French heritage. You had the player piano mechanics. Now, player pianos back then used to sit upright, and you would have to pump the pedals with your feet in order to get them to play. And one of the things that makes our piano so incredibly unique is that it is virtually electric. Back here in the back, we have this beautiful chest. It's called the Concertola. This holds an additional 10 scrolls for the piano, and it's connected electronically via this remote control. Now, William loved any advances in technology, and this was certainly one of them. He could take this remote anywhere here into the living room. He could play a song, he could re-roll the scroll, or he could program all 10 songs and have them play continuously without him having to touch another button. This was very advanced for the time period. I like to think of this as the iPod Shuffle of the 1920s.
1920s. When did he have that made?
1929. So,
with those features? Yes.
I'm sorry?
Did he bring it with him to here?
No. The mansion started construction in April of 1930. So William had to have Steinway and Aeolian come together to create this piano for him, and the 2 were fierce competitors at the time. They both initially turned him down on the project and said, "No thanks." William wasn't satisfied with that answer, so he sent them back a blank check and asked them to reconsider. Needless to say, they did, and for the tune of $10,000, they created this one-of-a-kind musical instrument for him. There were actually only 2 of these pianos that were ever created. The other one sits inside of the Smithsonian storage, and it does not play. William also commissioned several popular artists at the time to create scrolls specifically for this piano, including George Gershwin. But the scroll that we have in today particularly highlights the capabilities of the piano. So I'll be playing a portion of Fantasy Impromptu by Chopin for you.
Yay!
Was he actually deeded it to the home. So if you're interested in taking it home with you, that's more than fine, but you're going to have to buy the mansion as well.
Oh.
The other person that knew just how amazing this instrument was our late owner, Jordy Hormel. Him and his wife, Jamie, purchased the home back in 1992, and Jordy never wanted this piano to sit inside of a little glass box. He always wanted it to be shared with the world, and up until his passing day, he would come here on Sundays and play the piano for our Sunday brunch guests. Before his passing, one of his fondest memories that he shared with us was that every Sunday he would always play Happy Birthday because he always knew there was at least one guest here celebrating their special day with us. We'll go ahead and guess.
So this was built in 1929?
1929 was when William initially commissioned Aeolian and Steinway to collaborate on the project. It wasn't completed until 1930, shortly before the mansion was completed.
And the electronics were included?
Yes. Yeah.
my gosh.
So just like this, I mean, that's amazing.
Yes, and when you think about it, shortly after this piano was created, the stock market crash happened. People really stopped buying fancy pianos, and 3 years later, radio came out. So this technology just really never took off.
This is electric.
This is electric, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So, one more question. So those scrolls transfer to here electronically?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The ones back in the chest can, but the scroll that we just played is the one right
So
here in
there's
the
a
front of
conveyor
the
going
piano.
on.
You have to take those out and put them in there, right?
I thought no.
We can, so the concertola holds the additional 10 scrolls, and as the machine moves, it will loop the scroll that you select and play that scroll.
You don't have to move it from there.
No, it has, so the piece that actually reads, wow. So the piece that actually reads the scroll is this piece here.
Right.
And there's one of those in the bottom of the concertola. So as you would select a song, the top piece would turn, it would rotate, and then that song would catch, this little hook catches on there, and then it would start playing.
Okay.
I guess. So how does the scroll get to the piano?
Well,
That's an engineer's.
yes. So it's connected electronically, so essentially, instead of it telling it to play from here, it's just telling it to play from there.
It's playing from there.
Oh, it's playing
yeah.
from there, but electronically it's sending a signal to the piano.
To the piano.
In 1920.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, so you're not physically taking those scrolls and putting them in there?
No.
Nope,
There's
the
a wire-
scrolls stay in there, and
There's
that's
a
why
wire that goes
this was
to the
so
back end.
advanced, because he had
I just couldn't.
not just the one scroll, he had 10 songs that he could play in a row without having to touch it. We're gonna go into the south veranda and take a look at where Phoenix was back then.
Okie dokie. I know. It's my new job right here.
Is that anticipation?
Yeah. I mean, I see picture before we put it here. And that other room is a patio too.
Yes, the living room had patios on all 3 sides. Mhm. So this is actually one of my favorite areas of the mansion, because if you come here into the south veranda and turn around and look behind you, you can actually see the original roof line to the home. When the Hormels enclosed these patios in order to create the dining spaces for Jordy's restaurant, they really respected the original integrity of the home. All of the blue doors and shutters that you see throughout the tour are the original facade to the home. Just underneath the original roof line, you'll see the Wrigley's original patio fireplace there. And then if you turn around and focus your attention on the city of Phoenix, and particularly on that small section of downtown in the center, that'll start with the Chase ball field on the left-hand side. That's the long rectangular building with the domed roof. That's actually how large Phoenix was back in 1929. Not only that, that's where Phoenix was back in 1929. We were located 8.6 miles north of Phoenix and accessible only by dirt roads. So all the materials for construction on the home had to be brought up on those dirt roads on muleback. The residents of Phoenix used to refer to the mansion as the Star of Phoenix, or the Star in the Desert, because when they would look north in the evenings, all that they would see is the Wrigley's patio fire burning, flickering, and illuminating, much like the North Star would have. We'll go ahead out onto the south veranda patio now and take a look
Reminds
at the
me
Arizona
of,
Biltmore Hotel.
Gata John.
The people that bought the Hormels, that's like Hormel too. They have the king foods.
That's the original fireplace.
And then the other one, her husband got transferred for his job to Boston, like very last minute. Take a look at the very large concrete building just directly across the canal with the black roof. That's the Arizona Biltmore Hotel. That's what brought William out here to Arizona. William was one of 4 initial investors in the Arizona Biltmore, and shortly after hotel construction began, the stock market crash happened. Fortunately for William, he was a cash and coin kind of guy and didn't really believe in the stock market and was virtually unaffected by the crash.
Wow.
The other 3 investors weren't quite so lucky, so they asked William to buy them out, and he did for 10 cents on the dollar and acquired the Arizona Biltmore and the surrounding 600 acres. Dear Schnuckum Zeta. Upon completion, the home stood at 16,480 square feet. It had 24 rooms, 11 fireplaces, and 17 bathrooms.
This house.
This house, yes.
Say it one more time.
16,480 square feet. It had 24 rooms, 11 fireplaces, and 17 bathrooms.
Wow.
Initial construction costs on the home were $250,000, or the equivalent of $3.5 million today. Construction began in April of 1930 and was completed in September of 1931. The Wrigleys owned the mansion and the Arizona Biltmore and operated the Biltmore as an invitation-only resort until the year 1973. So in order to be able to stay there up until 1973, you had to receive a personal invitation from a member of the Wrigley family.
Wow.
In 1973, the Wrigleys sold the Arizona Biltmore and the mansion to Tally Industries. Tally Industries was an electronics company based out of Mesa, Arizona. They ran the Biltmore and used the mansion as their VIP or luxury accommodations. And it is during this time that Elvis got to come and stay with us. In 1979, Tally Industries sold the mansion and the Arizona Biltmore independently, and the mansion went to Western Savings and Loan Bank. Any longtime Phoenix residents will definitely remember the bankruptcy scandal involving Western Savings and Loan Bank in the early 80s. They were operating the mansion as a private club and charging annual membership fees of $10,000 per year. They got involved in this bankruptcy scandal. The home started to fall into disrepair, and they started to owe some back taxes. The city actually wanted to demolish the home and put up luxury condos. This upset the local residents very much, so they banded together and were able to have the home added to the National Register of Historic Places, which prevents us from any further destruction today. Jordy and Jamie Hormel came along in 1992 and paid the $2.5 million that was owed in back taxes and acquired the mansion. After they enclosed the patios to create the dining spaces for Jordy's restaurant and also Mr. Wrigley's 6-car garage in order to create our special events and wedding venue, the home now sits at just over 20,000 square feet. We'll go back inside and learn a little bit about Catalina.
So
sure.
he paid the back taxes, and what did he pay for the rest of the place? Where did Dad get it?
$2.6 million was all that the Hormels paid, and they got everything.
They got everything.
They got everything. I mean, just this property, not the Biltmore, not anything else, just this property. But I mean, the land itself. Say that again.
Who was one of the architects for the Biltmore?
Frank Lloyd Wright commissioned on the property, although technically the architect is Albert Chase MacArthur, who is a student of Frank Lloyd Wright's that studied at Taliesin West. He and his 2 brothers came together for the idea on the Biltmore. So the 2 brothers owned a Ford dealership in downtown Phoenix, and the one brother studied under Frank Lloyd Wright. The 2 brothers had actually converted this Ford Model T and called it the Wonder Bus, and they would take people out on desert excursions up into this area, and that was how they came up with the idea of building this desert oasis, and they got Mr. Wrigley to provide much of the financial backing for it.
One more question.
Sure.
So the Biltmore, is that the original? It was built 1929 or
Yes.
whatever, and it's still the same?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
I got it for me.
Have you been over to the Biltmore? It's awesome.
Mrs. Wrigley's peacocks. So these were a housewarming gift to Mrs. Wrigley here at the mansion, and she always had them on display. So we love still having them up today, as it's a great way to show that the home was always fully electric. The other feature that I like to point out are Mrs. Wrigley's hand-carved wooden chairs here. Now, Mrs. Wrigley was a very petite woman. She only stood 4'11", so a very thoughtful feature that William had as a part of the mansion. He had all of the furniture lowered so that she could sit with her feet flat on the floor and not have him swinging like a child. As William started accumulating more and more wealth, he began investing in different opportunities, and in 1919, he invested $2 million into Catalina Island without ever having visited there. He took Ada for a visit, and Ada's favorite thing to do each day was to wake up and watch sunrise. She woke up that first morning on Catalina Island, watched sunrise, and was quoted as having said, "I shower in a dam in order to provide the residents with fresh water for drinking," and he also refurbished steamships in order to bring visitors over to the island. One day, Mr. Wrigley sent his mining company out on an excavation on Catalina Island looking for gold. Unfortunately, they didn't find any, but they did find clay perfect for making tile. The Catalina Tile Company was born, and it was in existence from 1927 to 1937, when Mrs. Wrigley became concerned about conservation of the natural resources there on the island, and the Catalina Tile Company closed. But it only being in operation for 10 years is one of the things that leads to all of this tile being so extremely rare, valuable, and collectible today. My personal favorite expression are the window seats here that are done in these beautiful blue hues. All of the tiles are done in the star motif, which is intended to tie in with the Moroccan sun theme that's here in the rotunda, if you'd like to follow me. So welcome to the rotunda. This is where the Wrigleys and their guests would have entered and exited the home. This area was meant to make a grand impression upon the Wrigleys' guests. They would open the hand-carved, hand-painted front doors here, and the first thing that they would see is this beautiful cantilevered staircase. Cantilevered means that it's only supported along the edge of the wall, which allows the underside to be completely visible. This draws your eye upward to the 30-foot ceilings, and the second piece done by Giovanni Smeraldi. Giovanni Smeraldi took his inspiration for the rotunda piece from the Moroccan sun. The original name for the home is La Colina Solana, which is Spanish for Sunny Hill. Hanging from the center of the rotunda here, you'll see our brass crown replica chandelier. So this is actually the replica of 3 different crowns. You'll see the French crown on the top for Ada's French heritage. The large crown in the center is the English crown for William's English heritage. And then the small crown on the bottom is actually a private joke between William and one of his good friends. So William had done some business dealings with Prince Edward of Wales, and the two became very good acquaintances. Prince Edward had actually abdicated the throne the same year that he took it in order to marry the American socialite and divorcee Wallis Simpson. This created quite a bit of turmoil to her. He was quoted as having said, "Just as the petals of this rose will never fall, my love for you shall never die, for it is set in stone." Room in the home, and it served as the informal dining room for the family. William knew that Ada would be spending a lot of time in this room watching sunrise, and this room backs up to the kitchen. And another very thoughtful feature that William had, he had both of those walls completely soundproofed, so that Ada wouldn't hear the clanging of pots or pans while her breakfast was being prepared. We've since stained the knotty pine paneling a few shades darker and added a beautiful new chandelier, but that room offers breathtaking views of Camelback and Papago mountain ranges out of its windows. Behind you here is the smallest, but definitely the most popular room in the home. This is our switchboard room. So it was believed back then that if you line the walls of your switchboard room with foil, that it would increase the receptivity of the machine. William took a fun play on this and used the foil from Spearmint gum wrappers in 1930 to create his wallpaper. The room used to smell very strongly of mint, but it was rumored that when the Wrigleys sold the home in 1973 that the smell of mint just drifted away. William used to have one of these foil rooms in all 5 of his mansions as a fun way to remind himself that all of this came from gum. The family never employed an operator, which would have been a standard household position for families of wealth and stature at that time. William always insisted that they be very well versed in any technology that they possessed. So if you were here and you needed to make a call,
No, she said there was no shame. Little blingy.
Oh, I see. Peel that up.
Look at that baby. Let's test the build move. I'm just
window that's back here in the back. This had a doorway that actually led out onto the patio, which was a very advanced architectural feature for that time. The arched window is mirrored back in the back by the hand-painted mural that's just above the doorway there. Looking up, you'll see the third and final ceiling that was done by Giovanni Smeraldi. Across the center of each beam, you'll see the English lion, which is meant to represent William's English heritage, and the crest in the center of each beam, and a lion at the end of each beam to represent William's English heritage. Unfortunately, William passed away before the panels of this room were complete, and Ada wasn't sure what his final intentions for the room were, so she left the panels blank, and it's fine by us because we just joked today that it reminds us of sticks of gum. The front plate and the pineapple back plate. This is the first time that you're going to start seeing the recurring decorative theme of pineapples throughout the home. Pineapples are seen as the international sign of hospitality and wealth. And back then it used to take a lot longer for you to travel to your next destination, and you would stay a lot longer anytime that you were visiting someone. Guests were frequently welcomed with a pineapple, or there was one on display somewhere within the home. When a guest had more or less exhausted their stay, the pineapple was turned upside down. This is a silent way to be able to indicate to your guests that it was time for them to move on. Encouraging you to try this out for yourselves. Please write to me afterwards and tell me how it works out for you.
That's fun.
Over here in the corner we have William's wine cellar. Now the home was built during the time of Prohibition, so you weren't exactly supposed to be drinking wine. But William didn't care. He put his wine cellar here in the corner with a glass door on the front for everyone to see. Keep in mind that the home is a blend of Spanish colonial revival and California Monterey architecture. Occasionally we get asked if the architect Frank Lloyd Wright ever got to visit because of his involvement with the Arizona Biltmore, and he did. On the grand opening weekend of the Arizona Biltmore, Frank came up and had dinner right here in this very room. On the way out, coming up here is a great way to have a much closer look at these hand-painted ceilings. They are adorned with a 24-karat gold leaf, and as you start looking at the individual panels, you'll start seeing that recurring decorative theme of pineapples again. The pineapple theme is also reflected in the Romeo and Juliet balcony out front. But the fun thing about this pineapple, you'll notice that it has its crown both on the top and on the bottom. That's because the Wrigley's own the Arizona Biltmore, and they always intended that to be the accommodations for any of their guests that were visiting. So this pineapple was a fun way for them to be able to say to their friends, welcome, but please don't plan on staying here. We have the original wrought iron balcony here, though we did have these spacers a few years.
These are original windows?
Yes. He could see Chase Ball Field from here. William was a huge fan of baseball and invested so much money into the Chicago Cubs that they renamed Cub Stadium Wrigley Field. Mr. Wrigley built an exact replica of Wrigley Field out on Catalina Island and moved the Cubs spring training out there for them to play. He used to like to watch their spring training from his balcony through binoculars, and if he ever thought that the team wasn't playing well enough, he would radio down to the field and say, come and tell the boys to come and say goodnight.
Have the couch inside.
That's okay. Questions at the end of each room. I'm going to tell you a pianist by the time that his parents would let him take lessons. Jordy went on to compose much of the theme score music for popular TV shows in the 50s and 60s, including Haunted for Harriet, Gunsmoke, Lassie, and The Fugitive.
These are original mirrors too, I was just saying.
Actually, no, those were added just a few years ago by our interior designer.
Wow.
So welcome to Ada's bedroom. Hanging from the ceiling here, you'll see Ada's original amethyst crystal chandelier. The amethyst crystals for the chandelier are original to Arizona. They come from the mine that's just east of the Four Peaks area. The one in Lake Geneva, you can go on a tour, like a boat to 2 guest bedrooms. This room was primarily used by Philip and his wife Helen when they would come to visit. Here on the walls we have some beautiful brightly colored pieces of original Jordy Hormel's artwork. And then across from that, another beautifully decorated Catalina tile fireplace. Through this doorway here, we have what we've nicknamed the Juicy Fruit bathroom. It's gotten its nickname because of its bright yellow tile and its blue accents. But its most notable feature would actually be its black bathtub. The black bathtubs are not very common for Arizona, let alone for 1930. It was considered a very Art Deco feature for the home, in addition to the square toilets. All of the
The last part of the tour is a photo gallery showing the past owners of the mansion, Mr. Wrigley and later on, Mr. Hormel. This last photo is the photo of couple William Wrigley and Ada Foote, who are the first owner of this mansion. Thank you again so much guys for coming and visiting my channel and watching my video again. Hope this encouraged you to visit Phoenix, Arizona and this mansion. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, guys. Thank you.